I'm going to start recording. So we're looking at the
1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
clusters.
6, 7. Yeah, there's still 7 left.
Okay. So you're going to start the session that's entitled.
Right. Yeah, so this is the.
I think before, maybe Beisheng, before you go, I mean, if there are folks who already, started during lunchtime, got their clusters assigned, and if you have had success, do let us know, right, either through the chat, so that we can keep, and when I mean success, more in the context of getting Kubeflow up, right, because we can track if you got the cluster assigned. But for rest of you, right, if you are, or if you do need a cluster, I mean, just let us know if you're still provisioning it. And Weisheng, once you walk through, for rest of the clusters, how to get a cluster, right, we can probably take a poll. That
One person says they've installed, other says deploying.
Yep.
Cool. So Jagan, hi Jagan, great. So you have installed Kubeflow. That's awesome. We have our first successful user. Jagan, which are you an IBMer or which organization?
Yeah. I worked with Jagan before, actually.
Okay, that's great. So you probably have some beforehand knowledge of IKS, so that might have also helped. If someone outside of IBM, gets a successful install on IKS cluster, I would really love to know. Thanks. Go ahead, Weisheng.
Okay. So I guess we will. This workshop is basically to go through the deploy the Kubeflow on IKS, right? On IBM's cloud cluster. Of course, if you have you don't have an IKS, you don't have a IKS. I mean, right now the workshop still have about 7 left. Let's go through that. If you can get one. If not, as I said, that we also have some instruction for you to run on Minikube. It's some of the backup line, right? So this is a Minikube running on the Mac OS, right? You can try that. I mean, we can only do this based on the environment that we have. So there may be some options or some configuration maybe not the same as on your system. So based on that, maybe you need to change, and you can post the question on the chat or Slack channel, and then our team will look into and answer the question for you and help you to go through, if you need to do on the Minikube as well. But mainly I will focus on how to deploy on the IKS. And I know that during the lunchtime, people already did that, and that's great. And if you already successfully complete and to deploy the Kubeflow either with the command line or with the Kubeflow operator, just leave it there, not delete it for now, because the next workshops that you will need this cluster to go through to try out some of the Kubeflow components. And I mean, if you already done that and have a Kubeflow deployed, I'll welcome you to look into our other slides in the Kubeflow Dojo, or you can play out with the pipelines and the examples. It's in the Kubeflow here, and you can also go to the Kubeflow pipelines or Kubeflow repo to find out more examples there and try to see just what the examples that the animation just demoed in the end-to-end sessions, and so you can take a look on there as well. So there's a kind of lineages and so on. You can look into it. Other than that, let's just get started from the beginning of this workshop. And let's see. I have right now how many I have right now.
5.
Okay, only 5 now. Yeah, so that's good. So I guess that means that people already follow that, and whether it's okay, why it is not going up, and to move up to my browser a little bit. Okay. Okay, so let's see. You have to, if you want to access using our workshop cluster, you go to this link, right? If you don't have an IBM ID, so it's so simple that you just follow this link there. Okay, it's getting busy. Okay, I already logged in, so for you, it's just go here to create an account and using the email verify for it, and that will give you an IBM ID, right? And with that IBM ID in your email address, you can use that to later on to request the cluster. But you also need to install the IBM Cloud COI for the IKS cluster. After you install it, here you just go to this link. This is the cluster for our workshop, and go here. You can go AIS Lab and using your usernames and so on for the IBM ID. And I mean, you can look in the terms and condition and say I agree to it and submit to that. You'll see something like this, right? If once you have successfully get it, and this is the cluster name for you, and you can just save it later to use. And for you, you need to log into your account. And for people that have multiple accounts on the IBM Cloud, right? Like us, we are IBM internal. We have some other accounts here. Make sure you're on this account. This is the ones that have the access to this workshop cluster. And you can see this is the cluster assigned to you. And click on it. You'll be able to see the information of it and the workload and so on. And you can click on the access to see what the stuff you need to follow. Okay. So you install the COI toolkit, excuse me, and then you need to assign to the to send into the IBM Cloud. So for the people is IBM internal who have SSO access, and by default it's the federated ID. You will actually sorry, what's that? We'll copy this and then go here, but you want to specify with the SSO, to use the SSO to sign into your account. And you will ask you whether you want to get a default password, and then you do this, right? So this is the way for people with IBM federated ID. But if you don't have the that, you just use the -G, and then in here you are using your IBM ID just register there. So something that say it's a different name, and then you will need to provide a password that you register with your IBM ID, right? And that will give you to the IBM account login, okay? And then you can get the access to the cluster. That's exactly the way. Where is it? Here, using this, okay? And you can also using your cluster name, right? It's not just the ID. You can, let's say you can Kubeflow 01. That's also okay. And then you just yeah, I haven't logged in here yet, but let me just log in first. And I need to choose the account, which is this edward work. And now I try to access this cluster. Okay, so it says okay, and now you can run the Kubeflow get nodes or something like that, the command, and you can see, let me get it bigger, right? Okay, so yeah, so let's pause a little bit. Has anyone has trouble until this point that cannot get access to their cluster?
There is someone, Wei Shang, saying that I seem to have no resource groups.
The resource group, that's okay. It's you know, just look at here. I also get a fail, but it doesn't actually, you know, disable you to access. Try to run the command again with that, you know, cluster config to set it to that cluster's context. If it's okay, then that's fine. But if it's not, then we'll see. Yeah, I think that's I don't know, it's a toolkit problem or something like that. I did also have some problem there, but it doesn't, you know, prevent me accessing the cluster. Okay, so I guess if not, then I will move on. Right now we have 4 still there. No question, right? Okay. So now, congratulations, right? Now you have access to the cluster. That's good. For IKS, you know, the default, the original default, you know, storage, if you run the is the file browser, and this file storage is not good for the Kubeflow. So we want to use actually the block storage, cloud block storage for the Kubeflow, you know, deployment. And that's why here is the instruction to set up the IBM's Kubeflow block storage. You have to first you have to install the ham using this instruction, because all the IBM stuff cloud storage ham installation char. So you follow this instruction to install ham. I think on the Mac OS you can just run a brew install ham. So we could just one command there. After you install the ham, you can go there to you know, add the ham char and then do a repo update. Basically add this ICR.io's ham IKS chars to the ham repo, and then you do a ham install with it. So I think there's a questions on the chat saying I could not find the char. It's very likely these 2 commands, the repo add and the repo update, was not run or did not succeed, right? So after that, you have that, you will be able to see that the under the namespace queue system, you should see the what is the char? The storage is installed. The driver, the car block storage, and so on. And then, as I said, if you get the IKS cluster without doing anything, the default storage class is actually point to the IBM file browser or IBM file Gold, I think. And then we want to use the default storage class because the Kubeflow using the PVC we are going to bind with the storage class here using this block storage. And for that, we need to patch the storage to point the storage class to point the default to the block Gold instead of the file browser. And this is what this 2 command is doing. using the kubectl command to do the patch of it. And after those two commands run, you will see now if you run a get a storage class, you will see that there's only one default storage class, and it is the IBM block Go. And so up to this point, hope that you are able to see what I've been seeing. So let's pause here. Any questions? You okay? There's one asking ham install. Okay, so I guess that question is answered. So anyone able to see that the default storage class with IBM block Go, or actually ask the other way around? Anyone not able to see that? Okay, so let's continue then. So up to here, this is all the preparation for the IBM Cloud clusters for the Kubeflow deployment. If you are on Minikube or on other cloud cluster, you probably don't need to go through these steps, just given that you have access, right? And then we will start to do the deployment of the Kubeflow. And there are two approaches to deploy the Kubeflow. Either it's through the Kubeflow operator or Kubectl CLI. I don't know how many for the people that already successfully deploy Kubeflow on this cluster. I don't know how many have been choosing to install with the operator or CLI. Anyone actually deploy Kubeflow with the operator? That is the approach number 2. Okay, CLI, I know. Okay, so I guess mostly are using the CLI. So let's go through the CLI probably first. So CLI, in my previous session of the Kubectl, so the Kubectl is the CLI command line for install the Kubeflow on the cluster. Of course, you can see as I here, this is a Kubectl repo, source code, and you can, in the make a file, you have a way to build the Kubectl command. And after you build it, the command, it will be under the bin directory. You can do that. And you can also go to the Kubectl's release. Release page to download the latest one. And right now, because Kubeflow 1.1 is coming up very soon, right now we have RC here, but this one it's not good. It has some issues that does not work with the stuff that we are going to to deploy it on the Kubernetes cluster today. So that's why in here we are pre-built the Kubectl command for you. And so we are using here, you can go to download it using the wget, download the stuff to your local, and then you unzip it and copy it to the user local bin so that you can run it from anywhere. So that is the path of install the Kubectl. Now, once you have a Kubectl command, download, so you can see so you can run a Kubectl help, and then because we want to deploy, so you can using apply help to see what's the command there. And basically it's provide a config file, right? And then you can flag can be to do the verbals -v and so on. Okay, so that's what exactly you want work. So you go to your home directory, and then you can create a KF app directory for you. And if it's already exit, then you just go there and remove it, remove everything under that directory. Otherwise, you just cd to that subdirectory. And then here, this is exactly the KF tab configuration. As I say, it can be a remote file, or it can be also a local file. And for us, we are using one save in our Dojo here under the manifest. Okay. With this Cave Cattle IBM Tectons configuration file, we install the istio. We install the set up the local gateway cluster for the Studio istio, and then we also install application some istio CIDs, and then go here. We also have the anonymous user filter for the profile, I believe so. And then there's applications, Bootstrap, and then there's a cert managers. And the things that it's different right now, and it's not in the Kubeflow master repo, is this Tecton CD install and the Tecton CD dashboard. This is a Animation and Tommy and Christian will talk more about give deep dive tomorrow on the. So Tecton basically is CI/CD and other data pipelines that can work with Kubeflow to replace the current Kubeflow pipelines or work together on that. So this is one you are also going to have a pick and try some tutorials and examples later in the next workshop. And then there's a core Kubeflow apps, including the pipelines, dashboards, and some like TF operators, and so on. There's also meta controller, Spark operator, and then there's for serving, there's a KF serving Knative, as well as for the visualization, the TensorBoard, and there's also some of the Spark tokens for collect some matrix and so on. So this is the one that we're going to deploy as the Kubeflows, all the applications in the Kubeflows. Okay. So the command you run is just this, right? Just apply -v-f, right? So you can go here. And I'm on a different directory, but that's fine. So let's say I'm just remove. I already have it, so I remove everything, including the cache, as I already showed you in the previous session. Now I want to just run this. And you can see it will be going to, up to here, it's create the all the applications, right? And for me, because I already deployed, so this comes out very quickly, right? If it's not, then it will be, you can see, I think usually we are seeing about 15 minutes on some of these IKS clusters that the deploy will finally succeed. And once you succeed, if you can examine the namespace that has been created, you will create the istio system namespace for all the istio deployment and service. There's also a cert manager namespace, Knative serving namespaces, and there's a Kubeflow namespaces are created under the cluster. And to make sure that all the things are running for the Kubeflow, you can just see here, right? Okay, they are all running. And this is one of our pipelines. So I already run a pipeline tutorial. So just ignore these several completed in error step. So let's pause here. Let's see if you have been to these steps and anything has any problems with it.
So you're asking if anybody had any problems with the deploy?
Right. I would like to see if there's how we can do more interaction on this one, but I don't know how to do it here.
Right. So people are saying all good so far. So Tamer
that's
had no
good.
problem. Anybody else did actually went to the deploy? I think some people
Yeah. So
earlier.
if
So somebody's saying it's proceeding.
okay, that's good. So we can wait a little bit and before we continue, right?
I only have one last cluster to grab, so.
Whoa, this is it. Okay, that's great that the clusters came in useful.
Yeah, so it's good that we reserve 30 instead of 20. Huh?
And Tamer is deploying to his own instance. Scott is completed. Wow, this is good. And so, yeah, I guess the problem that repeated itself was the Helm 2, Helm 3. A few people had that, but I don't know whether that was around this bit or.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, if you are using your own IKS cluster, it will be similar. And if you are using,
oh, sorry, go ahead, Vaishang.
No, I mean, if you are using non-IBM cluster, I think you just don't need to do the preparation there, but the command and the thing here will be similar, right?
Yeah, and maybe that was a related question I had. Was anyone successful on Minikube, or someone who was probably doing in parallel on AWS somewhere? If somebody is successful on a Minikube, please post a message in the chat. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I mean, I also deploy on Minikube, but if you need something different or something like that, you can also ask questions, and I'll see if I can help. Right.
There is a question in the chat how to secure endpoints.
So essentially, there is a manifest, right, which configures DEX for authentication authorization along with Istio. So Istio acting as an ingress proxy with DEX as a plugin to handle your authentication authorization, and DEX can be then configured to a backend OIDC provider, right? So those are the steps you can take if you want to enable authentication and authorization.
Right, and add to that answer is that we do have a Cave Cutter IBM DEX YAML file for the ones that Animish is talking about in the Kubeflow manifest repo, and you can try that. And the documentation also just merge that changes to it, so you can follow that instructions there. I think it's somewhere. Sean, do you have the link? Maybe you can. I don't know exactly which link right now on this one.
What link are you looking for?
Install the IBM, install Kubeflow with multiple user on IBM Cloud.
It's a master branch. Just switch to the master branch.
Oh, it's not in the 1.0. Yeah, it's a master branch. Yeah, it's here. Huh?
Yeah. The first one. Yep.
Is that here? Somehow it's still showing 1.0.
Yeah, it's there. It's to the left. There's a multi-user RC enabled. To the right.
Multi-user.
To the right.
Okay, to the right. Okay, here. Yeah. This one. Okay, so you can using these instructions to do that with the authentication and so on. Okay, so that answered that question.
And then somebody answered your question. It took them 40 minutes on Minikube.
Let's there's so because there's I think it's about 20 or even 30 of Docker image need to download, you know, to start up the containers and so on. So it quite depends on the you know, first is about your connection to the Docker Hub or GCR.io's Docker registry. That's one thing, right? And then the other thing is that it depends on your CPU and your memory. So your container maybe starts slower. That's also possible. So 40 minutes, I wouldn't think it's you know, kind of unexpected, but it's also a little bit slow. Usually for my case, if I using the Minikube on a VM, I would say that it's still around 15 minutes, but of course my VM has the enterprise internet access, so that it's fast. And I also give it the Docker engine has enough CPU, you know, so I have about 4 CPUs or something like that for the Docker. So that also help to pull the image and so on.
Great. And then somebody's made a suggestion in the chat around using the particular version of Kubernetes.
Yeah, that's also possible for all the different you know, flavors. It just that when people will use one version and see that it's very good, but we don't know about on very different you know, your laptops or something like that. You have to find some work the best for that you know, configuration.
And there's a point in the chat that I don't quite understand. I have an issue to track tasks like this, and then it gives a particular GitHub issue.
This is Sean answer saying this is the documentation.
Yeah. So actually, follow up the question Anesh mentioned is it's a quite number of tasks to secure Kubeflow. So I'm just provide a link to track the effort.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, so this is basically that if you, I mean, for IBMers who really want to have a secure of a endpoint and those things, that try to follow these issues and see how it's doing.
I didn't pause the sentence correctly. Okay.
Yeah, and this should be also, I think most of the things that the GitHub auth and you know, approach should also workable for non-IBM cluster, right?
Yes.
Okay.
There's a question from Brian Sullivan, not having success Kubeflow and OpenShift against OCP 4.3 cluster.
Okay, so OpenShift, we need to have some of different manifests, and I believe the document here is kind of out of date. So we were in the process to you know, kind of update it. If you see here, this is talking about Kubeflow 0.7. It's all released, and there's some even that the manifest on here, I don't think that it's keep in sync with the latest master manifest. So we will coordinate with the Red Hat and see to update the document here. For now, I don't think this is up to date.
Yeah, I've also pinged a link to Open Data Hub, right, where they have the installation instructions. I think this is, as Wei-Sheng mentioned, this needs to be updated a bit on the Kubeflow website. Plus, I think if there is enough requests, we can probably, also schedule a follow-on, which is just in the context of OpenShift, right?
Right,
OpenShift.
right. Even the link here is also talking about 0.7. So yeah, so the thing is that we do need to update the link, the documents on this. Yeah.
One thing which I will, specifically mention is that, definitely the deployment on OpenShift will probably run a version behind, right? So it's not straight lift and shift from Kubeflow and run it on OpenShift, right? They have to add, quite a bit of modifications to ensure, Kubeflow can be deployed with OpenShift security restrictions in place, because, there is a lot of security constraints which OpenShift being more targeted towards enterprises comes with. So while taking that into account and giving Kubeflow run, they probably will run a version behind. And second thing is also integrating with the rest of the OpenShift ecosystem, right? So for example, some of the efforts which are going on there is if they need to leverage the Istio, which is part of the OpenShift by default, right? How do we get it integrated with the OpenShift embedded Istio stack, right? So similar things like that which need work, and that's where you will see it's running behind a version. So Kubeflow currently the official release version is 1.0.2. I believe 0.7 is where they are still officially standing behind. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
You want to talk about the Kubeflow with operator that's being discussed in the chat?
Yeah, I just saw that the Baya just installs try the operator method. So I would if we have time, we can cover it later to go through it together. But so far, I'll just, where is it here? So far, I guess everyone already have the Kubeflow running on their cluster. Let's see if we still have any cluster left. Okay, we still have one left here. Okay, so I will assume that now we can go to access the Kubeflow's dashboard. So first thing is that the for iCase, you just want to get the cluster IP for now, and then you using this export cluster IP equal to this, and then you will return the cluster IP for one of your worker nodes, right? And you can use this one and plus of the Istio ingress gateway port of 31380 to open up the Kubeflow dashboard, right? So okay, so you get into here, and if you click on the pipelines, you can see there's at least there's one example here about a free coin. And if you are able to see this and you can click on it and you're able to create a run, then and then the run succeed, then that means you are done with the Kubeflow deployment. That's for the pipelines, right? And you can also try to with the notebook servers. Is this most of the data scientists that they were doing, and then you can create a new server. Choose whatever default you give your name. And one thing is that because I already have a dashboard, already have the anonymous namespace already created for me, because this is not the first time I run the dashboard. For you, the first time you was go into the setup and you will create the anonymous namespace and set up the Kubeflow stuff in there. And so that's why you will see that. Right, there's a test 0. So the notebook server is going to create in this namespace. I think it takes some time, all right. Okay. Anyone have problems to access the dashboard? Is there a notebook server image that supports Spark? I believe so. Let me just double check. Actually, no. I think at the because I haven't run the recent release for notebook server, but I know that in the 0.5 or 0.7, I did see the Spark, image here. But okay.
I think
But
by
you can,
default, a lot of the people are bringing and pointing to their own custom images, right, which
okay,
they're
yeah.
using. So I can dig the link, right, where some of the folks in the community are listing their custom images, which are available. But for the most part, that's the primary usage we see, where people point to their own images which they want to use.
Right. So you can provide your own image. Yeah.
Is a request to you to repeat how to create namespace?
Oh, actually, you don't need to create it. Just that when I don't have a fresh Kubeflow cluster. Let's see. The thing is that once you go into this, and the first time you get in, you just it will pop up is with a menu saying that you set up, and then you will provide whether you want which namespace you want to use. And by default, it's anonymous. And then you just click on setup, and then the second step, you will just create it and finish, and then you bring it into this link, right? Bring into this dashboard. So you don't really, you don't need to run actual step to create an anonymous namespace. It is part of the, the process that when you bring up the dashboard. I don't know if this help answer your question.
I think Joe was saying that he didn't have a namespace, right?
You don't have that, but you just need to create, you just bring up the dashboard, and then you will see that it pop up saying you will run a setup, and it will set up. Once that setup finish, it create that namespace for you.
So I wonder if Joe got his dashboard running and then did the setup. Oh, he's okay. People, okay. Krishna, my dashboard page is blank. And some people can't. I'm guessing Arthur's saying can't. Yeah, can't access their dashboards. Ooh. Okay.
Dashboard page is blank.
Huh.
Make sure that you have the cluster IP is correct. If you on your page, make sure that you get a cluster IP. Did you get a cluster IP?
Yeah, I have the cluster IP.
Okay, is that 169 something? And then you go to the 31380, right? That is. And
Yeah.
so you still get a blank page?
Yeah. Oh, now I think now I can see. I think yeah, some of the pods were a little late in.
Okay, so maybe
running.
you can try to run the kubectl get pods kubeflow to make sure that it's all running, and
okay.
also because sometimes if there's because there's a pod right in the service for the central dashboard, if it's not running or the service is not ready yet, you probably will not see in the dashboard, right?
Yeah, well, that makes sense. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay, and somebody's pasted how to manually create profile namespace. So, ooh, okay. So that might be okay for Joe.
Yeah, you can also manually create it, but it's our workshop. I mean, it just
Oh, I
goes
see.
by default.
Okay. Okay. Right. Not a. Okay. So does anyone still have problems? Just paste again in the chat. Whoever's still got problems.
This might be finishing sooner than we thought, so that's awesome.
Yes, I know. It's
Yeah, we did it during lunch time.
yeah, people worked while you went and had your lunch.
That's true.
Okay, so there's also another approach that you can go with the dashboard. I mean, it's the pop forward that people knows already a lot, right? So
Right.
you
So
can do
someone doesn't get their cluster up. That's Arta.
cannot get a cluster is because already filled.
I don't get.
Or cannot get a page up, but all the pods are running.
Don't get.
But this is okay. This is who?
Oh, it's running. So Arta.
Oh, it's running again. Okay.
Right. So then we have Arta.
So now sure you post this link here for the Jupyter notebook, right? So there's brand right now, but you can say I want to new a server, and then you can give a name, and you can choose the image or whatever, and then you can just try to run it. Okay. Can you follow this to to just click on the new server to create a notebook servers?
You want Narsha to
And,
do it, please?
yeah, and see if it works for you. Okay.
You want to share your screen so that what's going
Okay. If you continue to have problem, just pin layer, and then we can take a look. For now, so basically this is what we want to try already applying for this workshop to do up to here to deploy the Kubeflow on IKS cluster. And if later on, if you want to try after this workshop and next workshop, and you don't need any more, you can try to do the delete, but just provide here. But should not do it now. Please do not do it. There's also some other task like Tecton pipelines that you can see in that the Tecton dashboard and install the CLI for Tectons. This may be may be useful for later in tomorrow's session when we talk about the Tecton pipelines. Another task is about to enable the load balancer for the Istio Ingress Gateway. For some of the applications that keep serving, they kind of depends on the Istio's gateway to be a load balancer instead of just a node pod. So if you look at here, so you can see right now the Istio Ingress gateway default is a node pod. But some of application may want this to be a load balancer, and so you can change it to that with a patch, or you can just directly add it to change the node pod from the node pod to the load balancer. So this is another task you can try, and then this is just provide here, for you if you want to delete the current Kubeflow deployment and then you want to redeploy. We know there will be some of the scenarios that the namespace may stuck on the finalizer. It's it's some of like the problem right now Kubeflow has. It cannot delete all the resources that have been deployed. And so that kind of make the namespace stuck like there. So provide some of this script that you can try to delete it, kind of force delete it, right? The goal, right? If for anyone who want to do the contribution, you definitely need to install a Go tools, and you can follow this Go link. I think that already covered in this morning's session, and create the Go path and so on. Building Cave Cutter, it's you clone and you build. Just run with the make build, right? And then so it's something that. So this is the Go is just using the make file, and in the make file there's all these targets, right? Like you can choose what you need to do. So there's a build, right? And you can just build a cave cutter basically to build a cave cutter on different platforms. For Windows, right now it's coming out, but it can build for Mac OS, for the Linux on AMD 64 and ARM 64 and so on. Okay. Yeah, the walkthrough, I was planning to do that, but it's some of things already done, right, to run the debug on IDE and so on. So those are the these workshops. What we originally planning to go through. One thing is I didn't finish yet in the previous session is about the operator, building operators, right? So you can see in the build here we have a Docker file, right? And we are based on the operator SDK. And so we download that and then we build the image on top of it. And so you basically you need to have a Docker engine that you can build it, right? So for that, at the beginning, you want to create the operator that image to specify to something, right? Like this, and then you can run the make build operator and make a build test push operator, right? Okay, so that is about this task that you can build a cave cutter with the command line, as well as the update your operators and so on. And after you build the operator image, you can go to here. You need to change the image to use your own instead of using the pre-built one. So you will update this one to something like you just built, right? That's something like this, right? And then after that, you can try to deploy with the new image of your operators. Okay, so now since we still have time, we can, let's see, I think like at least there's one person try with the Kubeflow operator deployment, right? So for Kubeflow deployment through Kubeflow operator, right now you need a customize. So you need to follow this link to install a customize. And then, by the way, if you already have the Kubeflow deploy and you are able to access the dashboard and run pipelines, you don't need to try this at the moment on your cluster unless you have another cluster you want to try. But if not, then just maybe next time you want to try on another cluster or something like that, you can do it. But for now, I'm just go through the steps here, right? So you need to install the customize on Mac OS. You can just run with one command to do the brew install. And then you clone the cave cutter repo. As I said, the code in here are actually under the repo. So you need to go there. And then you will follow the instructions to deploy a Kubeflow operator. right? So that will be just like this. So you go to this, the repos, and then you export the operator. And create operator. For me, I already have operator on that cluster. Yeah, so I actually did it before, so I already have this operator stuff here, but you can just do that. And one thing is for a deploy, the thing is that we need to run this customized to update the namespace here, because by default, if you search the namespace in here, you will see it that by default it's not set to the operator. So you need to update that using the customized to update the namespace with the operators. So basically like this. Right, so you change the namespace here to make it to operator. So this is what this line is doing. And then you just run the kubectl applied on the customization file and deploy the operator, right? After you deploy it, you will see the operator running here. So you have a Kubeflow operator pod running here, right? And then you can run the, to see, you can run a log to see what it's doing, deployment for the Kubeflow operators. And then enter the operator's namespace, and you can see what it's running, okay? So now you can see there's a got delete events at that time, something like that, because I run another deployment, right? And once the operator is up and running, you just pick one dev configuration as the custom resource for you. And then you just run to create the namespace, that custom resources, and you will be just running on like Kubeflow namespace and so on. Okay, so let's see if I have to do that. I haven't created that on this, but if we can do that. Okay, so now if you look at the log of this, you see this is running, right? It's another deployment right now. It's running because the Kubeflow deployment is create a custom resource with the Kubeflow operator. Okay, and we can see there's objects of kdev right now is create under the Kubeflow namespace. Okay. So this is the way that you do with the Kubeflow operator deployment. Of course, this is like a command line way. You can also do it with the, as I say, if you have the OAM console installed on your cluster, you can also do it through here. And you can see, on the Kubeflow namespace, right, what the instance is created and so on. Okay, that's why it's running here. Okay. Yeah, so which is also simple, right? You don't need to go through this command lines. Okay, let me pause here for, I think it's a Baya. Did you still have that problems that cannot update the that file, customization.yaml file?
Who was it you were asking? Oh yeah, he says yes.
Okay, so can you show the customization file? Yeah, and for Morphe, that's okay. Like the webhook serve manager usually it starts slowly. So after certain iteration, it should start to run, and then the other components depends on it to be okay. To answer Fox's questions, operator just a concept. Operator, what I talk about operator here is mainly about the operator framework and the Red Hat operator framework open source. So they have three types of operator that you can use the hand chart, you can use the Go, you can also use Ansible, right, to define that kind of operator that can to deploy application and later on can running a reconcile routine to monitor all the resources deployed for the application. So yeah, it's through a CRD, yes. Customize here. Okay, so I can see this. I mean, for Baya, I think that this is correct. I didn't see any problem here. You already have namespace as operators. So what's the error you have after this? Yeah, and just to let you know that you're building the cave cutter actually take a little bit while, but now it finished. Right? Customize build. Okay, go circle can you move? But oh, you are on Windows. Is that are you on Windows or? Okay, so I guess maybe it's the yeah. Honestly, I haven't tried this customize on Windows before. I don't know. I think maybe it's the past that could not resolve somehow. Need to see about. Yeah, it's luckily because of Windows. I guess we need to add some session or some effort to try on Windows also. Yeah, for Murphy's question, yes, operator. Right now, as you see here, we run the command we are running is that we create the custom resources under the namespace, Kubeflow namespace. Right now, we define it to Kubeflow, so it's in the Kubeflow namespace. But if you want to use another namespace, it's also possible. Just change dash the Kubeflow namespace here. And I mean, I can let's say if I create a namespace, and then I can try another one. That's not. Oh, I need to change the name of that. Yep. So you will see right now you will be going to create another a deployment on a different namespace. It's not there yet, but you can look at the log. There's another one installation is going on. Okay. Yeah, you only see right now. As I said, it take a little bit while for all the pods to and services to run to up. Why this one is not coming up yet? Okay. I think that's it for the deploy through the operators. Any questions or any things that
So
you need
Mofi
me
says he only sees 2 pods in his Kubeflow namespace.
Yeah, usually I saw this problem is that it will take a little bit while for all the pods to show up. So unless this, are you deployed through operator or are you deployed from command line?
I had deployed it through the command line before, and that had worked. I was just testing out the operator one and seeing what's the difference.
Okay,
And,
so did you do the cleanup, or this is another cluster?
Different cluster.
Okay, so yeah, so that it's not something that I did not see. I mean, I saw that before. I usually wait for a while, then it will come back and showing up all the pods. I don't know what exactly the reason for that, but it will show up.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good.
And there's a command from someone on to how you watch the progress.
Right, that's also in the instruction here. Thank you, Sean.
Yeah, when I run that, it does say that it got deployment complete, though. That is, so it says successfully.
Right, that one, it just means that from the tool perspective, it just already applied, but the distributed of applied resources, on Kubernetes, it's all distributed and it's all kind of async, right? So it's not coming back.
I think if you're done, though, one thing I'm thinking is, maybe we can start the next session a bit earlier because it probably is, anyways, getting late for quite a bit of the folks who are joining from other geographies. So maybe we can take, a 5-minute break. And Tommy, I don't know if you're ready. We can get the next session kicked off much earlier.
Sure, no problem. We can start at 2:15, I guess.
Makes sense to me. I mean,
Yeah, 15 minutes past the hour, so in a few minutes.
All right, sure, no problem.
Great.
Thanks. So